Have you ever been sitting somewhere in public and you've heard someone speaking another language and you've wondered what they were saying and what they're just talking about in general? Learning a second language can be very beneficial, not only in that area, being able to understand people in their native language, but there are other benefits as well. There are a lot of cognitive benefits when it comes to being bilingual and learning another language or even several other languages. The brain tends to develop better when you know a second language. I know there's a study done on Alzheimer's disease, and they took 400 Alzheimer patients and they did a study to see which ones developed Alzheimer's faster, and it showed that people who knew other languages, who were bilingual or even more than that, they were able to, they couldn't suppress the Alzheimer issues, but they got it later in life, about, they said 5 or 6 years later in life, they got it compared to the people who only knew one language who got it earlier in life. So it definitely helps the health of the brain. It helps stave off things like Alzheimer's for a while longer. There are other benefits too as well. There are multitasking benefits when it comes to doing two things at once. People who knew another language tended to do better at that because they were used to having to work with two things. The brain's functioning had to be able to sort through the two languages every day of that person's life, so that helps the brain be able to sort through other things in the environment as well, because the environment sort of reflects knowing a second language, because you're not only multitasking with that second language, but everyone's always multitasking in their environment when it comes to their surroundings. There's always other things going on, so it definitely helps in that area. Um, there are a couple studies, actually two different articles. One was called The Benefits of Bilingualism, and I believe that was by Gray Matter. And in that study, they had children who they studied from about 7 months old to see the difference between them, the ones who grew up on two languages and the ones who grew up on one language. And I know they said the children who grew up on two languages were able to solve complex problems faster than the other one. There's a study, different article called The Bilingual Advantage by Claudia Dreyfus, and in that study they took a bunch of kindergartners and they put them, and they tested them, and they had a screen, and the screen had two different colors, two different types of shapes in red and blue, and they had a red and blue bin, and they told the children to put the colors with the matching bins, and they were both able to do that pretty quick, the children who knew one language and the children who knew more than one language. They both did that quickly, but then when they were asked to put the shapes in the bins of the same shape and ignore all color rules, the bilingual children had a lot easier time doing that because their brains were able to sort through the different problems that came with the different types of shapes a lot easier than the children who only knew one language. There was another 2004 test where they took some children and they had them watch a screen, and throughout watching the screen they had a puppet pop up in the right view of it, so the children started to learn to look to the right for the puppet to see it as they were watching. Well, eventually they switched it around and they put the puppet on the other side of the screen, and the children who knew more than one language were able to learn that they needed to look to the left instead of the right a lot quicker than the children who didn't know two languages, because those children were able to sort through it faster. They were able to kind of realize they needed to look a different way faster than the other children. So there are a lot of mental benefits when it comes to that. And I actually agree with that because I've taken several foreign language classes. I'm actually in my Korean class right now. I have 1 week left. Um, this is the workbook we work out of, and it's just very interesting. We work with a lot of pictures. I think it definitely helps with the mind. I think I retain a lot more. We use pictures a lot. It shows here we use different pictures to identify different words. But it's definitely helped me retain, especially when it comes to studying. I feel like I remember things better because we are actually quizzed every week in this class, and well, usually every week, and learning to memorize 15 or so words every week kind of helps subjects in school, so that's definitely a big benefit. We do a lot of repetitive work. We copy different words and everything just so we can learn them easier. So repetitiveness, so that helps you with the brain capacity right there. And I know there are other books that I use as well to research this subject, and there's this book, International Perspective of Foreign Language Teaching, and this is by Gerard Irvin. And this book is pretty interesting. I think it's one of the newer ones out of these three books. It just talks about the different types of perspectives from different languages, looking through that language's perspective about other languages. It's really interesting. I really actually like this book. And then this book, I think, helped me tremendously because it spoke of, again, the ability to retain information when you know a second language. It showed that people who were bilingual or knew more than two languages were able to score higher on tests like IQ tests, use different methods in languages, and therefore were able to get higher scores than people who didn't know anything but their own native language. And this was, again, second language learning, a review of related studies. And this is by Suzanne Izzo. So this one, I think, was probably my favorite out of the three books I have here. It was just very interesting to kind of go through, especially with all the tests and everything it showed. And then another source is Literature and Language Education. This is also a very good book. I think it gives a lot of information about language, and it kind of goes into like poetic language of knowing different forms and the way people structure languages and the creativity that comes with them. So this is kind of like an artistic look at languages, and I liked it as well. It was very good. Let's see. So yeah, I used a lot of these to find my information. Although I've always already been interested in learning other languages. Like I said, I don't know how to speak language fluently quite yet, but I've been studying several, so I think that's already helped me. I can't imagine knowing another language. And I know from the survey, the questionnaire I put on Blackboard, there were a lot of people who did not know a second language, but they knew a lot of people who knew a second language, which I thought was interesting because people tend to surround themselves around those who know another language that they don't know one themselves. So I think it'd definitely be beneficial for people to kind of look into maybe learning another one, so you can connect more with your friends and family who actually know another language. I think it makes things, makes people a lot closer, knowing their native language. It's a lot more personal. I know there are also people who said they were interested in a foreign language, and a lot of them actually had taken a beginner's class before, and I know that they had said that it was beneficial to them because it really is, even if you don't exactly retain all the information and aren't able to actually speak the language that you took the class over, I think it still definitely helps. You definitely learn skills in studying several years of high school, and I can't really speak a lot of French, but I think it definitely helped me when I was preparing for college because I was able to multitask, and you have to be able to multitask to do homework in college. Um, but I think it's definitely beneficial. I think people should look into learning another language, at least one other language, and I just find